Hello, time for a Monday Reads. Yes, I'm getting smarter. I'm going to record this on Sunday and then just do the editing and all that and release it some god who knows what hour on a Monday versus trying to cram it all into one day because that's difficult for me. Especially this week that I have absolutely nothing to hold up. Zero. Everything is either audio or ebooks or stuff like that. So let's just do it with pictures appearing. First, though, let's talk about what's interesting this week to me. There's plenty of interesting stuff, but the thing that's actually there's been an announcement for is Rick McDonald over at his channel has announced that he's going to do Booktube Spin #4. If for some reason you haven't heard me natter about this before, you haven't heard about the Booktube Spin, this is a thing where whoever wants to participate selects 20 books, whether this is 20 books you've got hanging around in your library, 20 books that you want to get to, whatever 20 books. You pick 20 books, and then Rick will on the given day, for this spin, it's on October the 6th, so it's still a couple of days off. He will spin a wheel, and whatever number comes up is the number you've numbered your choices 1 to 20. That's the book that you've committed to read, and he hopes that you will publicly kind of announce this. You will either using one of the social medias. For me, I only have this, so this is my only social media. So I'm gonna get together a list. I've got all my old lists here. I'll have to see where I'm at. Since the very number one, I've had certain rejiggerings. The last one was a whole genre one I picked because I needed just straight genre, kind of that level of reading. I didn't want my heavy lit one because my original Booktube Spin was very heavy lit. So yeah, I will put a link down below to Rick's channel where he does the announcement for Booktube #4. Booktube Spin #4, and he'll be doing that on the 6th. So that's something else I'll probably need to do today. This being pretending it's Monday, need to get it done. Find a list and then announce it. So yes, do that. So yeah, that's my Booktube participation. I have very limited Booktube participation. But that's what's on the line. I'm not even probably gonna. He's because of an accident last time. He ended up with 2 numbers. He's considering doing two spins this time, and I'm like, probably he'll spin it twice, but I'll flip a coin to see which one of those I'm going to do. So I have to keep the chance. Everything is all about chance, and I that still really appeals to me about the Booktube Spin. But also reading books, which is great. So yeah, let me quickly run down what I've been reading this week. I've been continuing with Shadows Linger by Glenn Cook, fantasy novel #2 in the Black Company series, where we're following mercenaries who are in the ploy of the Dark Lord. So this is kind of grim and gritty, very much a kind of a soldier's tale. The narrator is the person who keeps the company annals, Croker, who is also the surgeon. And, they're all get the kind of the original core of the people that we met in book 1 are getting into their 40s, which is kind of old for a soldier. And they're definitely kind of feeling the wear and tear because it's just been endless putting down the rebels in the most, it's just brutal, kind of hard bitten, kind of realpolitik kind of way. Still with dark, foreboding, not pleasant magic. This is a grim dark world. This is actually probably a precursor to a lot of the grim dark because I think this book is like 1984. Really, really good characterization. Introduction of a new character, Shed, who is an innkeeper who has really developed throughout this book as a really fascinating, if not sympathetic character. Simply just someone who's like, wow, this is this it's an interesting thing that to see the kind of his slow transformation from a coward into something else, not necessarily that great, but really fascinating, really fascinating. Also, I finished Bina by Anakina Schofield, a 2019 novel, a novel in warnings, which was actually pretty short. I listened to this one on audiobook. It was like, I think it's like 5 hours and change. Um, and it was interesting to listen to it. I actually did download the sample of the you can get those Kindle samples of the first bit to just sort of see how it's laid out, because there's like, oh, it's very experimental, and it's like listening to it, and it's like listening to it, it's very much, it's like, okay, this is a monologue. This I could see this very much being kind of being adapted for the stage quite easily, as you know, you're hearing about Bina, this 70-year-old woman who's being prosecuted for something. You find out as the book goes along her many troubles with men, and with basically how women are ignored, especially older women. Anakina Schofield grew up in Ireland, moved to Canada in like 1999. This is set in Ireland, very much with those roots. Though one of these incredibly troublesome men, Eddie, apparently has gone to Canada, and she's just worried that he's going to come back. But Bina is slightly demented, slightly kind of losing track of things in that way that older people do, and has a tendency to kind of talk in circles and circles and circles, to the point where I'm kind of glad that this it's I think maybe it would qualify as a novella, just going by the length of the audiobook at 5 hours. And that's probably a good thing, because it's the kind of voice that is starting to drive me, would alternately drive me a little bit mental, but would also be like, oh, okay, this is also, you know, me as a male listening to an older female voice. And am I doing that thing that culture does, of just tuning out older women and not taking them seriously? And she is someone who's got warnings and has got stuff that she demands that you take seriously. I don't know how much I'm going to hold on to this book, other than that, just sort of that kind of slightly mental feel of the book. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting book. So yeah, that's what I guess that's the thing I finished this week. I took up on audiobook as well, Johnny Appleseed by Joshua Whitehead, 2018 novel. I'm listening to that on audiobook, also read by the author. I'm going through a whole slew of books that are all read by the author. Anne Enright and Anakina Schofield are really top flight readers of their own work. Joshua Whitehead is a little bit more monotone. The thing I enjoy mostly about a lot of writers is they have a tendency to let the words speak for themselves, and they don't do as much dramatization. Joshua Whitehead writing might be even a little bit more monotone than that, but still I think is getting the job done. It is about a two-spirit indigiqueer young man who is working as a sex worker in Winnipeg, but finds out that his stepfather has died, and he needs to get some money to get back to the reservation for the funeral to support his mother. He did not care about the stepfather, who is homophobic and abusive, but wants to be there for his mother. And he also, very importantly, wants to kind of reconnect with his kokum, his grandmother, who has some stories to tell him, maybe where he's come from. There's a lot of stuff here about being gay on the reservation, and also being native in the gay community in Winnipeg, and kind of him trying to kind of balance that. There's also the thing of, as a sex worker, he kind of prides himself on creating fantasies for creating fantasies, creating stories for his clients. It's far more that than it is actual sexual activity, even though there's a lot of explicit sexual talk in here. He's a young guy. I mean, the book opens with him masturbating, so be aware of that. This one, the 2021 Canada Reads contest, which in Canada is celebrity judges bring in books and kind of defend them, and they have it's basically kind of a 5 books enter, only one book can win, and this is and Johnny Appleseed's the one that actually won, beating out works such as Butter Honey Pig Bread, which I really, really, really enjoyed. That's a very hard bar, and I'm trying not to hold that against Johnny Appleseed, which seems like a little bit more of a rougher work. Joshua Whitehead is a poet, and there's little things in here of like, oh yeah, that's kind of poetry in there, which might be the high point for you, or it might be like, and it feels maybe a little bit. It feels a lot rougher than something like Butter Honey Pig Bread, but I'm going to try and separate those things out and just sort of enjoy it as a kind of contemporary, as kind of a contemporary voice of a Native person in Canada. And why maybe I kind of emphasize that at the moment is the other book that I've picked up for my reading out loud to myself thing, now that I finish Gulliver's Travels, is Legends of Vancouver by E. Pauline Johnson, which is a 1911 book. It's a collection of legends about Vancouver before it was colonized. These are Pauline Johnson is what father was a Mohawk. Her mother was an English woman who had come to Canada. Pauline Johnson was known by her stage name of Dagio Wage, which is either like double life or double wampum. Was a poet, author, and performer. She was born on the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario and died in Vancouver at the early age of 51. These legends were told to her by a fellow who was called at the time Chief Joe Capilano. Sapuluk was his name. And there's a mention in the thing of like, oh, they met when he was going with a delegation to meet with a delegation to King Edward the Seventh in 1906. And what doesn't get said in the introduction or in this published account is that he was going to fight for land claims because that they had not been honored in the area, and to also to fight against the outlaw of potlatch, which is the very kind of core important kind of societal ritual that celebration that happened in Native society, which had been outlawed by the Canadian government, wanting to, because it's all very much about kind of giving away all your goods, which is something that really freaked out capitalist white Western society, and so it was quashed, was repressed, outlawed, and so he and a number of other chiefs went to do that. It did not work. He actually came back, and he ended up breaking with the Roman Catholic Church, because the priests had not supported him there. He was labeled a nuisance. There were calls for his arrest and prosecution because of all the kind of agitation he was doing. So it was a very highly political figure. That none of that gets mentioned at the start of the kind of the 1911, 1913 kind of introduction to this. But I've just started reading. I've read the first 2 stories, The Two Sisters and the Siwash Rock, and it's kind of like origin stories, like, oh, look at those 2 mountains, and they call them the Lions, and he's like, oh, really, that's not. And what it is they're the 2 sisters, and it's 2 sisters who are getting married, and there was a great celebratory potlatch for that formed this bonds, they formed this things of peace and brotherhood for the area. So very much in the first story, you get the thing of, hey, look, here's a important potlatch thing for us, important story. The other story that I've read so far, Siwash Rock, is about a father swimming in the water to cleanse himself while his child is being born, and refusing to get out of the water when four great men, representatives of the deity, come along, and he persists in defying them, even though they're threatening him with, like, destruction basically, and turning him into something, and they, at the end, his child is born, and they reward him, saying, like, yes, you fought for the future of your child, despite our great threats. And they turn him into a rock, a monument for clean fatherhood, of standing up to fight for your children's future, which, at least coming from my perspective of reading it now, is very much, oh, here is another story of fighting for the future of the children, is very much in what would be his political program, and I think Pauline Johnson's program. All right, and yes, that is what I've been reading this week, and now it's time to order dinner, so I'm going to do that. So yeah, definitely check out Rick's channel for the Booktube Spin number 4. If you're looking to get, you have a great book, a great mound of unread, and need a motivation, this is a great way to say, spin the wheel, and it's like, yep, I'm going to read that one. That's the one that I'll knock off this time. I've definitely knocked off quite a few books that way, which has been really good. And whether the book is successful or not, sometimes there's some things I've ended up DNFing, and other things I've really enjoyed. But the thing is, they're off the list. That opens up for more stuff to go on the list. There's always more stuff to go on the list. So yeah, more videos later.